8 out of the 9 children who disappeared in the village of Malimba, that is in the near the town of Ideya, have been found, and the whereabouts of one of them still unknown. And also in this newscast, state funds are yet to be put at the disposal of political parties going for the upcoming municipal and legislative elections in the country, 5 days to the kickoff of campaigns across the country. And users of Lokbesu and Peka Katos roads are decrying their extreme bad states. These are headlines, details and more just in a moment. Good evening to you viewers. Welcome to join us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away with the news from the locality of Mwanko, that is in the Sanaga Maritime Division. 8 out of the 9 children who went missing more than 10 days ago in the Malimba village near Ideya have been found. Reports say the children were brought out of the forest today by an old woman in the village who allegedly disappeared mysteriously 5 days back. The elders of the missing children, who is 12 years old, is said to have parted ways with the others in the forest. His whereabouts remains unknown. Meantime, the children are currently under intensive medical care at the Mwanko District Hospital. There were reports this afternoon of how the Littoral Regional Governor Joseph Betia Somo visited Mwanko as soon as the information broke out. Back to school is over a week gone now, but students of GSS Bangapongo with no hope to begin classes. Infrastructure is still incomplete, and Pamela Ndukong, who was at Bangapongo, now tells us that students are frustrated.
Schools are busy in studies going into their second and third lessons for the academic year. The CAS Bangapongo is in a bad state as the structure of the school itself is yet to be completed. For the past 2 years now, the CAS Bileng has been down in its dilapidated state with no benches, chairs and blackboards for the students to study. Contributions are done by inhabitants living around this community who volunteer every Sunday to contribute money to see that the structure of the school goes up.
Nous, on n'est pas plus là-bas. La distance, c'est ça qui fait que nous, on ne peut pas inscrire l'enfant au lycée de Nilo.
The volunteers complain that they have been waiting for the government to open the school to no avail. All they want is the education of their children. According to the volunteers, what the school needs most now is cement to fix its floors and teachers to effectively start classes with the children. The complaint of the far nature of the other government schools was disclosed by the inhabitants, who said the roads are bad and distant for their children to live here to other government schools. That is why they are putting all their efforts to see that this school goes operational. The cry now at the Bangapongo community is to see that the CAS is renovated so that their children can resume school effectively this academic year.
It remains unclear whether classes would actually begin at GSS Bangapongo, Pamela Ndukong, after 1 week after school resumption across the country. Meantime, the road linking Lokbesu, Peka Katos and Lokpom, that is here in the economic capital Douala, is practically inaccessible. Road users have to battle with potholes and stagnant waters to get to their destinations. For Hansen Chanji, who visited those localities here in the city of Douala, compiled the following report.
We are in the Douala 5 municipality. This is the environment that welcomes every individual. Plying the road that connects Lokbesu, Peka Katos and Lokpom is a veritable nightmare. Potholes on the road has been filled with rainwater and transformed into small lakes. This is a no-go area for pregnant women, children and patients. Locals say they have been living with the deplorable condition of the road for years now. Since most transport vehicles no longer use the road, the only available means of transportation on this road is a motorbike. Bike riders have monopoly on the means of transportation and have decided to skyrocket the fare. If a bike rider dares to ply on the Lokbesu road, he doubles the fare.
C'est 400 francs.
Or if he decides to be moderate, it will only be when He transports 2 passengers at a time. The state of the degradation of this stretch of road has a consequence to drivers. Most of them confirmed that each time they use the road, their next destination will be the garage. The lone hospital in this area is also affected. Officials revealed that they hardly receive patients, not because everyone is in good health, but because of the road that stands as an obstacle for patients and visitors. The most affected during this period are students and pupils who ply the road every day to go to school. Inhabitants say they have notified the Douala 5 Council, the Douala City Council, for years now, but nothing has been done. The road that would have solved the recurrent traffic congestion in this area has been abandoned, and inhabitants say sooner or later politicians will appear like wolves in sheep clothing, cajoling the people to vote again in their favor by pouring ground that will later be washed away by rainwater.
Officials of the Douala City Council have said the town is in need of some 25 billion francs CFA to resolve the drainage problems in the region. Frickson Tone and Paul Naseribia were speaking at Enset Douala yesterday, where they announced that rehabilitation works on the collapsed road would commence in 2 weeks' time. They said some 550 million francs CFA would be disbursed for the exercise. Movement on the Enset road has remained practically difficult ever since the route split into 2. And also, a fire outbreak has partly consumed a section of a home at Valley Besenge, that is in Akwa, here in the economic capital Douala. The incident occurred at about midday today in a plank house, reports say. The exact cause of the incident is yet to be known, and there are conflicting views as to what actually caused the fire incident, with many neighbors saying that it emanated from a woman's kitchen who had a pot on the fire. Others are saying that it must have resulted from poor electrical connections. The material damage is yet to be established, and the firefighting brigade of Ngodi intervened on time and stopped the flames from extending into other neighboring houses. Let's now talk about the country's municipal elections bid for the 30th of September 2013. State support funds for the upcoming elections are still to be made available to political parties going in for both elections. 5 days to the kickoff of campaigns, let's find out how political parties in Yaoundé Central region of the country are bracing to carry out the exercise. Roland Akong visited some political headquarters in Yaoundé and compiled the following report.
The Ministry of Territorial Administration disburses state funds for political parties during elections.
State assistance to political parties for electoral campaign is shared in 2 installments. First installment is shared to political party whose lists were validated by ELECAM, and the second installment is shared according to the result obtained from the field.
But no political party in the September 30 race has received a dime, whereas campaigns begin Sunday.
As an opposition party, you don't expect the person whom you are fighting to come and give you everything. It will be difficult. So we have started planning and putting our own little resources at our own level.
We are still waiting for the financial budget that has to be given to the political party for the upcoming campaign.
The late disbursement of the state support does not stop the parties from going ahead with their campaign activities.
With the contribution that we'll be making, and also our supporters within the parties, have been helping us. We have been contributing ourselves.
CDU is working according to what our militants used to contribute. That's why we are not waiting especially for that financial budget which is coming.
The list of electors have not yet been published by ELECAM. The election management body was supposed to have done so. However, Elecam has published the list of over 22,000 polling stations across the country where voters will record their votes for the September 30 twin elections.
Meantime, party officials are having a hard time coming to terms with the organization of local polling stations across the country. In Douala, the SDF is demanding the putting in place of 2 separate commissions to oversee the holding of the twin elections bid for the 30th of September. But supporters of the ruling CPDM political party have admitted that a single polling station is enough, as stated by Elections Cameroon. Another worry raised by the Social Democratic Front is the absence of a law in that regard. We shall be coming back to that in our subsequent newscast. We take you right away to news out of Cameroon. Let's have an update on the Syrian crisis. Barack Obama says that there could be a significant breakthrough, but he and other American politicians remain skeptical about the Russian proposal to secure Syria's chemical weapons. Let's have the details of that report with Franz Venkat.
Syrian regime targets.
Barack Obama said it could be a significant breakthrough, but he and other American politicians remained skeptical about a Russian proposal to secure Syria's chemical weapons, including senior senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham, though they said it could boost support for an intervention.
Congress should proceed with its plans to consider and vote on the authorization for use of force that is now before the Senate, and today's development should make members of Congress more willing to vote yes.
Democratic Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said he was delaying the vote to let President Obama address Russia's offer. But Reid and other intervention supporters remain on the offensive, trying to win over undecided lawmakers.
I believe America must set the example for the rest of the world. If America must once again lead, as we have before and we will again, to set an example for the world, so be it. That's America.
Democrats control the 100-seat Senate, but it's unclear if Obama has enough support within the chamber to garner the 60 votes the measure's expected to need.
With his now notorious and I believe ill-considered red line comment, President Obama has forced us to debate a military attack in yet another Middle Eastern country.
If the motion gets Senate approval next week, it would pass on to the lower house. But support is even lower in the House of Representatives, with more than half of its 433 members expected to oppose.
Still in news out of Cameroon, Kenyan Vice President Ruto William has been accused of crimes against humanity. He and the newly elected President Uhuru Kenyatta are accused of masterminding the violence after the last elections 5 years ago. The trial comes just days after Kenyan members of parliament voted to put the country out of the International Court of Justice, the ICC. We remain in news out of Cameroon. This time around in the Middle East, the draft committee in Egypt is looking forward to finding a consensus despite divisions, and the 50 members committee started off on a wrong footing, showing a division, as we hear with CCTV.
Islamic powers' monopoly over the 2012 constitution. Egyptians are looking forward to consensus in drafting the new constitution. But the 50 members committee started off on the wrong foot, showing division. It rose fears that the new committee might not succeed to eliminate the problems of the previous draft.
Despite the diversity and division, electing Amir Musa has a significance. He was in the 2012 Constitution Committee and he left. So the majority chose a chairman who was against the Islamist-dominated constitution.
On Monday, the committee decided that articles will pass by the approval of at least 38 members to approach the popular demand of a consensus. The liberal dominance in the committee prioritizes human and women rights. They will try to make them fundamental rights in the constitution rather than leaving the law to determine their restrictions as in the 2012 constitution. Some analysts are hopeful. They say the new draft will meet the people's aspirations of freedom and democracy.
There are reservations on the committee's formation. There are rejections, but the majority agrees on its formation, on the basis that this committee has represented a wide spectrum of the Egyptian society. Therefore, I think it will meet the people's expectations.
But while the 50 members committee intends to stop religious authorities from giving their approval on laws, they are bound to write articles that do not contradict with Islamic laws. That's because the second article in the Constitution states that the principles of Islamic laws are the source of legislation. All members previously declared that this article will remain.
And that report out of our national boundaries brings us to the end of this segment of the news. Up next, we meet our guest. Good evening to you viewers once again. Welcome to join us tonight on Talking Point. We are going to be talking about the upcoming municipal elections and the elections of members of parliament bid for the 30th of September 2013. Our guest tonight is a barrister at law and also a political analyst. Good evening to you, Barrister Roland Abeng, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure, Remy.
We should be thanking you for coming. We shall be talking about the upcoming municipal elections bid for the 30th of September, like I earlier indicated. Campaigns will be kicking off. That is going to be this weekend in 5 days to come. And so far, many questions are still being raised on the publication of voters' list. Do you also ask yourself a similar question?
I ask myself the same question, but to me, particularly, I think that the voters' list practically, or for a practical basis, should be published at the nick of time. We understand that at this stage, ELECAM has taken steps to make the voters register public through a virtual means, which is the internet. Now, when they talk of publication, we are yet to understand what publication means. Do you mean pasting it on the walls of the polling stations, on the walls of the ELECAM office, or putting it on the internet, as I hear it is already now? But to me, that's not really the argument. Let's fight to see that elections are free and fair. And one of the most important things to do at this stage is making sure that elections material is found where it's supposed to be at this stage. Remember that a few years back, we had a situation where on the day of elections, we have situations where voters' cards or ballot papers are not available. We should make sure that that doesn't repeat itself.
Now, talking about the availability of voters' lists, there are many people that cannot go to the internet, as you earlier indicated. It's going to be practically difficult for them. And we're also looking here at the necessary corrections that could be made in case of mistakes before the elections actually take place.
It would be really regrettable to think that corrections can be made a few days to election day. Now, you cannot make corrections when you do not collect your cards. That's the first thing. It's important. And whether you are opposition or you are CPDM, what's important in any democratic election is to be able to say your word. The only way you can say your word is having your voter's card. Having that voter's card is some very, very big power to the person voting. So it's important to be able to have the voter's card for you and for me. Now, if there's an error, you can know already from your voter's card. You can know from your voter's card. Having that collecting your voter's card and voting and examining it to know whether there are errors or then the list a few days to the day of, we are talking of 6 days to the day of election, publish on it. Now, there's a practical issue on it. Most of the polling stations are schools, remember? And I'm not sure that if you paste a list today in a school, you will see it in 3 days' time. It's important that the things be done in a more practical way. Yes, but it's important that ELECAM creates a situation where people can consult the lists.
So it's very, very vital.
Very, very vital.
Especially
yes.
This
yes.
point.
And not putting them in the polling stations, on the walls of the schools, but coming to each ELECAM office and making sure that those lists are available.
So now let's talk about the issue of local polling commissions. That is also raising a lot of debate within the ranks of some of the political parties, precisely the opposition political parties that are going in for the elections. So far, ELECAM has announced the availability of just a single polling commission, but many party officials are demanding two local polling commissions in a particular polling station, and it is as a result of the twin elections that is going to take place. They say it is necessary to have 2 local polling commissions as a result of...
I understand what the political parties are saying. The political parties are saying there should be a polling commission for the municipal elections
and
a polling commission for the... Yes, but the law talks of a polling station, a polling commission for each elections. So yes, the opposition is right. It means that in Lycée Bilingue Bonaberi, polling station 1, there should be a commission for the municipal and a commission for the legislative. In each polling station, in each room. But the truth is that it will create more trouble.
How would it create trouble?
Because when you have 8 people for each commission, times 2 in each is so much. Let's do it for 1. I'm sure that's why the state decided to do the twin elections. It's cheaper, it's more practicable, and it can be done transparently. Our issue here should not be whether there is 1 or 2 polling commissions. Our issue is that elections should be transparent. If Elecam can do its job transparently, then you and me should not complain. If our votes, if I know I vote and my vote will be counted as 1 or not 2 votes, and somebody else's vote will be counted as 1 but not 2 votes, then let's go for it. This issue of let's not look for arguments where arguments do not really exist. It's true the law talks of a commission per election.
An indication that it is twin elections. It's in need of 2 local polling.
But the law doesn't prohibit 1 commission for the 2 elections.
A problem there for some of the...
Well, I'm just being legalistic. I'm just trying to interpret the law in my own way.
Party officials now it's going to make it. It's also going to be. There's another problem to being raised on the participation, representation of the various political parties in the said commission.
It's a fact.
That is actually not evenly put in place.
I don't think the local polling stations have been. The local polling commissions have been nominated, but it's said that the political parties are represented in that polling station, in that polling commission. So I don't, except a political party finds itself cheated or discovers that it's been cheated, but each political party has a right to have its representative in that polling station. It's a right. It's a right. And I'm not sure Elecam will allow a situation where political parties will not have their representatives in a particular polling station, especially if the political parties are competing within that jurisdiction. So and they are right. They are right. I am not in a position to say whether the commissions have been nominated or not, but it's the right of political parties, whether government or opposition, to have members. It's the right of Elecam. The Elecam is supposed to be the president of the commissions. So the president, if there is no political party represented, and that political party is competing, then there is a problem. But sometimes the problem also originates from political parties. They don't have enough representatives. There are about how many thousand? You said 20-something thousand polling stations in the country, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so you need 20-something thousand people to sit from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then after to count the votes, you need to give them allowance. It's so much money.
But that is the elections and they want transparency.
Good. So I'm saying sometimes the political parties themselves do not even have the means to have supervisors in the polling stations. That's the problem. So just imagine a party like SDF, you need 22,000 people to sit in polling stations on that day. 22,000. You give them maybe 5,000 francs for pork, for bread. It's not easy. You need to be rich. You need to be a party that has money to do that. And that's why sometimes those people who represent political parties and polling stations are sometimes walked over to remain quiet when some negative things are done. In that case, I don't think you will blame you will really blame Elecam 100%. But it's in the role of Elecam to play the arbiter in these elections.
Thank you so much, Barrister, for joining us tonight on Talking Point, and it's always wonderful having you on Talking Point.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
It should be thank you for coming, and to our viewers, we thank you so much for having joined us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. Good evening to you once again, and have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs.